Hello everyone. We're having our Skyro Perspectives. It's number 7. I think it's a lucky number. And now we have Ira in our room for our conversation. Ira is COO, right? Maybe as the usual way we're talking to our people that come for conversation. A little bit about your past. Can you please give us something that we'll be interested in?
Sure. Good morning, Nasim, and thank you for having me here. Prior to joining Skyro, I was the Chief of Staff of Secretary Carlos Dominguez, who is the Secretary of the Department of Finance in the Philippines. So government, and I was there during the time of the pandemic. So it was actually a very, very interesting time to join government. Yes, it was at the very beginning of the pandemic, and yeah, it was super interesting because on top of your usual job in the Department of Finance, which is, treasury work, collecting taxes, looking for financing for infrastructure and healthcare, then you've got a pandemic ongoing. First, I would say 6 to 9 months of my job as Chief of Staff was just talking to World Bank and ADB and congressmen, figuring out financing the pandemic, bonuses for our healthcare workers, how to finance the vaccines, hospital supplies. It was very, very interesting, hectic work. Prior to
like a crisis mode for the government.
Yes, right? It was, and it was during that time when people didn't really know how long the pandemic was going to last. At the time, it wasn't even a pandemic yet. Everyone was like, "Oh yeah, we'll be back in our usual routine in 3 months," and we were like, "Yeah, maybe 3 months." But as we know, it went on for much, much longer than that, and there was a lot of uncertainty, and government was definitely in crisis mode.
How does it feel to work in government organization? Very important unit, right? Finance.
The finance, yeah.
And then in the crisis mode.
That's right. Actually, what's interesting about the Department of Finance is it sits in the back of all of your units in government, agriculture, infrastructure, right. Everything. We're involved in everything because we're supposed to be resourcing everyone.
Right.
And in a crisis mode at the time, there was very little sources of revenue. The economy was going down, so tax collection was very low, customs was very low. So you had to look for more sources. Yeah, and at the end of the day, it was lending. We ended up working with World Bank and ADB for a syndicated loan for the vaccines, and it was a very important time.
Right. Interesting. Mm-hmm. What was your activity in that? You said Chief of Staff, but I don't know. What are the things you have to be doing?
As Chief of Staff?
Yeah.
My goodness, it was really everything. Secretary Carlos Dominguez was a very tough secretary. He demanded nothing less than perfection. And so
something we can learn from
I think you would love him. And working for him and working in that circumstance, it was very fast paced and very challenging indeed. And what it entailed as Chief of Staff is really liaising with everyone and making sure that everything was happening when it needed to happen. And I think what people don't realize with government, because as an outsider, as a consumer of government services, a lot of times you go, "Oh, government is so slow." But when you're inside, actually, and especially in our office, it's actually very fast-paced. And I think people might be surprised to learn that it's very fast-paced because a lot of your deadlines cannot be moved. Congressional deadlines, loans, to World Bank, those deadlines cannot be moved. So we're working with very tight deadlines, working with various stakeholders and making sure that things happen when they need to happen.
It's indeed something we can take for us that deadlines are not moving.
That's right. It's a lot of talking to people like, where is this? I think I developed a lot of voice during that time.
I like it. But Can I still try to get a little more information? I'm very interested, honestly.
Sure.
If I'm looking at us, right, and I've been to previous project in Vietnam here, it's a little bit different way how you communicate. And for example, in like European countries, Russia is quite direct, right? Maybe United States, but here, how you balance between you demand from a person to be done something, and you cannot be psychologically pushy, right?
That's right.
How would you do this?
No, actually, I think in order for you to be pushy, you need to invest and sow seeds of relationship building before that. Right. So you can't be pushy to a stranger, but you can be pushy towards a person that you've had lunch with, that you've coordinated with and given a Christmas gift to, for example. That's the kind of relationship building that we have come to expect in the Philippines, not just in the government setting, but just in society in general, where you are expected to be a good member of your community. So if you're a good member of your community, that you're reliable, I can call you, our communication lines are open, then when the time comes that I need you, then I can call you and say, what the fuck is going on?
I like it as a general advice for us all. And for many people who came to build business here, invest in relationship.
That's right.
Spend your time, maybe a little bit of money on the relationship.
That's right, and that's for all levels of society. Whether you're dealing with VIPs or dealing with your staff, it's the same culture.
I agree. I probably discern something very, very similar pattern. You can be a bit different once people understand you're not hurting their feelings.
That's right.
That's right. The business.
That's right.
Then they can differentiate where was that your request or pressure coming to.
That's right.
All right. Very interesting. How does it help you to do project, to the business? What was next?
Well, it was very interesting going back to finance and going to fintech in general, because actually prior to joining the government, I was already with another fintech company, and at the time we were doing SME loans and trade financing.
Can I ask you a little bit about that,
sure.
That period? What was that company doing?
We were offering SME loans, and basically it's trade financing, receivables financing.
Okay. Was it successful? What to your opinion? I mean, maybe it wasn't for too long, but what was your feeling on that business? I'm interested myself generally, because if
it's something that we might.
Right there, it could be.
That's right. That's right. Well, in general, in a nutshell, I would say it was successful, because I think the general metric for a lot of tech startups is if you last probably longer than 5 years, we can probably consider you successful. And so far, despite all odds, despite all the challenges that they have faced in procuring certain licenses, in acquiring new customers and partners, they're still alive, and they've continued to evolve with the market. And I think it's something that we need to take from them, that you just need to be very responsive to the needs of the SME community. Otherwise, it's not going to sell.
I tell you, I noted the word, they're still alive. That means it's not perfect.
It's not perfect.
Where would you, if you would be still looking at this? I mean, of course, it's easier to reflect on something which is backwards, right?
That's right.
There is an expression that people can always refer to the backwards, but need to live forwards. What would you change what the organization was doing?
I think we could have invested more in product development. Because when business was not doing so well, the solution of management was always send more sales agents. Let's build our sales team, get more callers to do cold calls to businessmen. But at the end of the day, if your product is not what the businessmen need, then it's not going to sell. No amount of sales agents is going to solve that. So I think now looking back, we could have invested more in product development and really understanding what the market needed. And eventually they did do that. They shifted to a different product. But I think they could have done that in a shorter period of time. The feedback loop could have been tighter.
Interesting. I think also maybe for us to watch out. We're too stubborn in our products.
That's right.
It looks like sometimes our products are not 100% maybe well oriented on the customer base, and we need to kind of improve in that.
And our feedback loop as well. It's always something that we need to look at and be mindful of.
What we some time ago agreed, we want to meet our customers, right? And to do the panel. And go to the panel of products and then check them, right? And I think we started to do this recently. Let's continue.
Right.